Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this gives you a review for Orphan Black Season 2, Episode 6, To Hound Nature in Her Wanderings. And this episode, holy shit, it was by far the best episode of the season. It was so amazing. I loved every minute of this episode. There was a lot of really great stuff in this episode. I really did love this episode. It was a fantastic episode. I really did love it. And, you know, especially that big reveal at the end. I don't know where that's going to go, but I'm really interested in seeing where that big reveal ends up going, because I think it's going to be really cool to see where that goes. We'll get to that in a second, but let's first get into the episode, because I really, really enjoyed this episode tonight. So the main plot, of course, had to do with Sara, or actually Sara and Helena. You know, they had their own stories tonight, so let's just get to it. So basically, Helena and Sara, if you remember, they had to leave where they were living to find that guy Ethan, who was somehow involved with Helena's past. If you remember the last episode, that's the whole reason why they left, because they have to find this guy, Ethan. They don't, you know, they have to find out the information they need about him. So, that's why, so they've head out, they're now camping, and, you know, they're having a lot of fun. I really like to see this scene, because you see that Helena and Sara are actually becoming very good sisters. If you remember, it actually kind of surprising, because you go back to, like, Season 1, Helena and Sara are, like, mortal enemies. Now they're, like, really good sisters, and I think that they're doing that because they're making up for that time they did not get to have together as sisters before, which is great, because I thought it's fantastic that they did that, and I really like to see, we got to see actually a lot more, like, fun side of Helena tonight. You know, we usually see, like, this badass side of her, and this episode, we got to see her have a lot of fun, very witty, very funny side of Helena in this episode. I mean, I always thought Helena was really creepy. She's hilarious in this episode. She made me laugh quite a few times, and I'll get to that, but, you know, they're making shadow puppets, and they're just having a really great time, and, you know, they're having a lot of fun. So then we see this guy, Duncan, who, he is the only surviving member of Project Leda. He was last tracked to a church by Maggie Chen, who, if you remember, Maggie Chen also has something to do with Helena's past, so basically, Helena and Sara, they're on the road, and I really love the scene where Helena's just singing to Sugar Sugar. I thought that was actually a really cute scene, because as I said, we got to see Helena be very fun tonight, and I really like that about this episode. So, Sara takes the initiative to shout out this one who has access to the archives and claims to be a student of the former church visitor, the Cold River Institute, which was shut down in the 70s and houses their archives in the church basement as a means of preservation. So, you know, she's trying to get information about Ethan. So, Helena then ditches the stakeout because she just wants to have some fun. She decided to go to this local dive bar, and one of the patrons is getting a little rough with her. So, Helena breaks his finger, and his friend Jesse sees his sights on her. Right away, you know, you can tell they have a lot of chemistry. And you know what? I like this guy, Jesse. I think he's a good guy for Helena. He likes Helena for who she is. I like them together. I'd like to see these two hit it off. These two do hit it off pretty quickly, I will say that. And I like that about this episode. I like that we got to see Helena actually have someone who liked her. Never something I would have expected, but I thought that was fantastic. And we get to see a little more of Helena's backstory, which involves a mashup of her sister's past lives. The ex-investigator who just did a stint in rehab enjoys her new company and time away from her crazy travels with her sister. Now, this guy apparently used to be in Project Leda, I think, something like that, but, you know, he's not anymore, so. Then we see Felix, who, he in this episode has only one scene. Now, I don't have a problem with Felix only being in one scene in this episode, because he really didn't have to be in the episode, but, you know, it's Felix, so obviously he has to be in the episode, but he was only in one scene. He's doing some binge drinking, you know. If you don't know what binge drinking is, it's when you consume a lot of alcohol, like a bunch of different alcohol at once. You know, I don't condone what Felix is doing, but that was kind of funny. He's paint splattering, and he's put to bed. Art sets up camp in his apartment, and Felix is sleeping his way to a hangover. And as I said, I don't condone what Felix is doing, but he's still my favorite character. He's so funny. Art sets up a wall reminiscent of a Sherlockian method full of Maggie Chen's puzzle pieces, and the next step is to figure out what it all means. That's what they have to do. So, then we see the Watchers, Paul and Mark, who's also a member of the Proletheans. They allow Helena to have fun with Jesse, because they just want to have, because Helena wants to have some fun, why not let her have some fun? I like that they did that. But they decide to keep their attention to turn to the bar, and they decide to strike up a deal. And I thought that was a pretty good deal. Paul takes Sara, and then Mark takes Helena, and both bosses will be happy. So, Helena's the only one enjoying herself, you know, she's arm wrestling with this guy, and you know what, I thought that was a cute scene, because again, we got to see a fun side of Helena. She's arm wrestling with this guy, almost breaking his arm, and she's making out with Jesse on the dance floor. It looked like they were about to have sex, actually. I thought they were going to have sex in this episode, but before that could happen, then his jealous friend, who obviously is very jealous of him and Helena, he comes in, he starts beating the shit out of him, but then Helena ultimately ends the fight, like, beats the shit out of the guy, and Paul watches Helena get taken away by the cops, and she gets arrested. So, then Cosima confides to Sara that the stem cell treatment has begun, and admits that they are stronger together, while explaining to Cosima that Duncan was at Clearwater. Sara is still at the Arches, realizes that pieces are not only missing, but they were also taken by Maggie Chen, so that's a pretty big thing. Then we see Helena's sister, Gracie, who, you know, her mouth was recently unsewn, so she actually talks to Helena. She convinces her to come back with her to her children. Yes, she finally tells Helena that you have children and that you need to help them. So, because obviously she doesn't want to raise that child, and I'm still thinking it's because it's a demon baby. I really do think that. Because, you know, Helena always thought she was a demon, so I'm thinking that it's probably a demon baby. Henrik harvested her eggs and is willing to place them back inside of her. Helena sees a prospect of getting her own family once and for all and leads to the opportunity because, you know, Helena really never had her own family. So, I thought that was actually a pretty good scene. I enjoyed seeing that overall, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes because I thought that was actually really good. Sara then finds the missing piece that Maggie Chen swiped. It's actually a medical record for an orphan named Andrew Peckham, who ends up dying at the institute, and he's living under the stolen identity. Art is able to track down where Peckham is, and it turns out that Peckham is actually Duncan, which I thought was great. You know, I was just like, wow. By the way, you know, it was a really great thing here. You know, it was a really, basically, you know, she finds where Duncan's hiding, but guess who? She goes to the door to find, you know, who's taking care of them, and it turns out Mrs.S answers the door. She is taking care of the outlying sole survivor of Project Lita. So obviously, you know, Sarah's kind of like, what's going on here? So Mrs.S is trying to explain herself, but it falls on deaf ears. She's still going by Andrew. Duncan submits to questioning about his upbringing of Rachel, which is a proof of concept. By the way, Rachel was not in the episode, which I was actually happy about, because I do not like Rachel. So, here's the proof of concept is how a call began, and it's resulting in he and Susan creating the first successful human embryo clone. Dyad took over the sensitive Project Lead, and ultimately, their attempt to raise Rachel in a loving home. It was the neutrialism inside of Dyad that began the seemingly irreversible corruption, not her parents. So, Mrs.S takes Paul, and then it turns out the biggest part of this, we see that Mrs.S is working with Paul. So I officially do not trust Mrs.S. I don't know where this is going to go, but she suggests they are better off working on the same team. And so now her and Paul are working together. It's not going to be good at all, because as we know, Paul is completely against Sara and all of them, and that means that Mrs.S is against them too. So I thought that was fantastic, and I was just like, oh, I mean, that was huge. I was not expecting that at all. That was so good. Then we see the little girls who still belong to Duncan, Alison, Cosima, and Sara. They are actually still alive and need his help to prevent their untimely death. Then we get a huge reveal here. You know, Sarah's not really sure if she can trust this guy. Because, you know, Sara never really knows who to trust, and she doesn't really want to know if she can trust this guy. It turns out, though, that Leekie is responsible for taking Rachel from him. You know, Leekie, as it turns out, is not as good as we think. And I love that they revealed that on the show. Not only is Leekie responsible for taking Rachel from him, he killed Susan in the lab explosion. So Leekie killed Rachel's mother. Yes. Leekie killed Rachel's mother. I mean, that is such a big reveal. Such a great reveal. I love the way they revealed that in this episode. And I thought that was a fantastic reveal. And it was so great. I love that reveal so much. It was just such a fantastic reveal, and I love that about this episode. I thought it was such a great reveal, as I said, and I love that. So that was fantastic, and I absolutely loved that. I thought that was so good. So Then what happened? So that was Sara's plot. Now let's get to Alison's plot. Alison's plot was by far the most surprising plot of the episode. I knew Alison was going to be back in the episode, but I didn't expect what happened in the episode to happen. So, Alison is actually in mandatory therapy, because she was in rehab before. So now she's in mandatory therapy, and she's kind of in, like, a support group. It kind of reminded me of Girls United from the Fosters. That's what it reminded me of. But guess who she sees? Guess who returns? And I freaked out when I saw this guy return. I couldn't believe it. Vic is back. Vic is back. Now, I did not like Vic last season. However, you can kind of see that he's changed this season. He appears in the room to share his woes. He's a recovering druggie. He did a lot of drugs. And I love last season how he always got hurt. He got his finger cut off in one episode, then he got his hand hurt. And he still has the bandages on his hands. I mean, that's sort of the thing with Vic. And basically, he's new to the ways of the Bud Huss. So Vic confronts Alison after the session, coming straight out with the truth that she's a clone. And Vic luckily finds it absurd, but still keeps a close eye on her. Because if you remember, Sara revealed to Vic that she is impersonating someone else. And Vic doesn't know if he can believe it. Because, Vic is just, very, like, dumb. I'm just going to admit right now, Vic is dumb. He's the dumbest character on the show. Because he never believes the clone thing, and it's all true. He thinks, like, they're messing with him, and I find that hilarious that he's messing with them. So, then we see Donnie. He visits, and he's met with an all-too-familiar hostile attitude, because Alison, of course, is very upset with Donnie, because, if you remember, Donnie's the one that checked her into the mental institution, so she's really pissed at him. So, I mean, she even, like, basically, he did not bring the children to visit. Vic steps in to convince Donnie that Alison is working on her anger harder than it may seem. So Vic actually wants to help Alison, which I thought was very surprising that he actually wanted to help Alison. Vic then takes his meditation seriously, which irks Alison to interrupt his silence. He gets her to open up and finally admits that she has a drinking problem. She finally tells him that. So she starts to get closer to Vic, and, by asking him to assist her with the place settings for Family Day at the center, which, again, is very much like the Fosters, as I said. So, Vic then steps out for a smoke, but the only release he gets is from spilling information to Angie, who waits in an idle car. So, I mean, that was pretty big, but that's a pretty big thing there. I thought that, it's pretty big, so now he knows stuff, he really knows information that he should not have known, and I think that's pretty interesting to see what he's going to do with this information. I'm interested in seeing where that whole thing is going to go. But you know what, seeing Vic back in this episode was very surprising, because I didn't expect to see Vic back, and I was happy that we saw Vic back, because I like his character now. I do like this friendship that he and Alison have, and I hope it's a genuine friendship. I really do. I hope it's not sort of something where Vic is working with someone, he's trying to get information about Alison for Angie. I hope it's not like that. I think it's just that Vic found out something he shouldn't have known. So let's get to Cosima. Cosima, she did have that one scene with Sara, but she did have her own individual plot. She is beginning to receive treatment from Delphine. But they're talking about technicalities is interrupted by a visitor in the lobby. Now, didn't Dr. Leekie say that he would treat Cosima? I mean, I know we can't trust Leekie now, but didn't Leekie say that he would, treat her? But that didn't happen. Scott is now available to work in the lab alongside Cosima, and instead of it was conference in via Skype, and approved by Dr. Leekie personally. Scott's expertise in genetic sequencing is essential to the work they are conducting. So, Scott proves to be more clever than Cosima, and Cosima gives him credit for that. So, looking at the combination of genetic sequencing and questioning patients on them, Scott realized that Cosima is working with clones. He asked if he is allowed to see one of the clones, and, he asked to see one of the clones, so that's what he does. So, that's basically all we really got with Cosima in the episode. Cosima didn't have a lot to do in this episode, but, yeah, that was basically the episode. And as I said, it was an amazing episode. I really did love this episode. I loved everything in the episode. I love the stuff with Sara. I love seeing Helena, Helena being very rebellious in this episode and a little bit more, like, having fun. I really hope we see more of that side of Helena, because I enjoyed that in this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun to see, and I hope we get more of that, because I like seeing this more, like, rebellious side of Helena. I thought it was a lot of fun. What's going to happen with Dr. Leekie now. We know we can't trust him. Can we trust that guy Scott? I don't think so either, because he was sent by Dr. Leekie. So, obviously, Leakie's got an agenda, and it's not a good agenda. So, I don't really know what we can think of this guy that just got there. We'll have to see what happens there. But what's going to happen with that new guy, Scott? What's going to happen with him? What's going to happen with Leekie now? Because we know we can't trust Leekie. So, what's Sara going to do about Leekie? Is she going to feel bad for Rachel? I actually feel bad for Rachel now. I know why Rachel's so spoiled, because of her mother dying. You know, she's upset with Leekie, so... You know, is Sara actually going to sympathize with Rachel? We're going to have to see what happens there. Is Helena actually going to, get the, have the baby? Is that going to happen with Helena? We'll have to see what happens there. Alison and Donnie, do you like their friendship? I mean, Alison and Vic, do you like their friendship? I do like their friendship. I think they're pretty close. They're not like Alison and Felix, obviously, but I do like where their friendship is headed, and I do like that Vic actually wants to help Alison. But do you think he's received information that he doesn't want to, or is he secretly working with Angie? I don't think it's that. I think it's what I said before, that he's received information that he should not have known, because Vic, as I said, is an idiot. He really is a giant idiot. And, Cosima. What's going to happen with Cosima? Can she trust this guy? I don't think she can trust this guy because he's working with Leekie. But that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Unfortunately, there is only 4 episodes left of Orphan Black this season and this year, which is just like, yeah, that's too bad. But that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Season 2, Episode 3, In the Flesh, Season 2, Episode 3. So, I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.